Hello and welcome to today's episode of Platinum Talks Wealth. Emmy Nominated journalist Jennifer Rogers Markwell changed gears in her television career when she realized the need to help women make sense of investing. She regularly hosts educational workshops to empower women and others to take charge of their financial future. Now, join your host, Platinum Wealth Management President Jennifer Rogers Markwell, as she leads us into the world of money memories, money infidelities, and how these can mold our relationship with our personal finances as adults. Let's dive into today's episode.
I'm Jennifer Rogers Markwell, and today we're joined by Jodie Cox. Jodie, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, so tell us all about who you are and why you do what you do.
Well, again, I'm Jodie Cox. I'm with Senior Benefits Insurance Services. I'm a Medicare expert, right? At least that's what I'm called. And I love what I do. I've been specializing in Medicare for about 15 years now. And probably the thing I love most about it is providing that valuable education around Medicare for people. It's a complicated government program. There's a lot of moving pieces. And I'll share a little of my background, what brought me to Medicare, but that's really what I enjoy most is the education part of it. Just making sure that folks have a resource they can turn to that is trusted, that's going to share all the ins and outs about Medicare and puts them in the driver's seat to make a good decision for themselves, because healthcare is really important, right? Especially as we age.
Yeah, and it's confusing, quite frankly, right? I feel like with Medicare and a lot of other financial topics, they're kind of a moving target in essence, where each year there's a new change, right? Each year something changes. It's not like you can get it figured out and know it as just a common person, because every year there's moving parts to it.
Right. And that's exactly really what led me to this is, I had watched my mom go through a lot of health challenges, and my father-in-law as well. We cared for him. And if I didn't know what I knew as a Medicare expert in the field, I wouldn't have been able to help them navigate through the circumstances they were in. And I thought, wow, this is really helpful for people and families to have this information, which again really spurred me to where I'm at now. Prior to that, it's kind of funny. I scratch my head sometimes and think, how did I get to Medicare? Right? People will ask, how in the world did you land in the Medicare space? And interestingly enough, my background was a teacher. So my background was always been heavily in business and sales and marketing and advertising. And so I taught high school for a time. I've always enjoyed just teaching, right? Helping people understand things. And then being a small business owner myself, as years went on, I definitely been an entrepreneur for a number of projects and businesses. And I'm a huge supporter of small businesses and helping people achieve their financial goals along the way. And Medicare has just always happened to be something that I know so much about that it was hard to let go by the wayside, right? When you know so much about a topic that is so important to so many people, it's hard to move away from that. So I've combined a lot of things that I've done through the years. And again, Medicare is just something that I've always been involved with.
Yeah. So, I always ask this, like when you were a younger person, like, was it ever in your mind that you're like, I am going to live in the land of Medicare? Was it ever a thought on that? Like, or did it truly just, like you said, organically evolve just from helping parents?
Absolutely organically involved. Helping parents was one, but prior to helping my parents, actually, a door was opened in between little entrepreneur companies that I had going on. And I really wanted to be involved in the healthcare space. I saw how it was evolving and how important it was. So I decided to just jump in and become licensed. It wasn't in Medicare initially. It was actually just in healthcare in general. And then it did find its way to Medicare. So no, I didn't wake up one morning thinking, I could not be a Medicare expert. but doors opened along the way, and it just kind of naturally, I think that's where I landed. Where I
And
think the most.
super important role, right? Definitely important. And I feel like with Medicare, not that we can, put it all together in a bow in a short amount of time by any means, but I mean, there's a lot of information out there, and I think a lot of misnomers as well. What are some kind of overview things that you can share with folks? Obviously, then reaching out and that have individual questions, but what are some good nuggets that you could share with folks?
Sure. I think one of the most important things to know is that you have choices. And so it's certainly not one size fits all with Medicare at all. When I talk with people, it's a very individual conversation. We're going to talk about things like, their modified adjusted gross income, because that's going to help them know what their Part B premium is. A lot of people aren't aware of that. We're going to talk about if they are still working and if they have an option for an employer plan, what that looks like in comparison to Medicare. A common, I think, misconception is that, hey, I'm working, I'm past age 65, I have an employer plan, I'm just going to not even think about Medicare yet. And oftentimes, depending on, again, your situation or where you live in the country, Medicare may actually put you in a better situation. Not always, but very often. And so having that conversation with people ahead of time, so prior to being age 65, which is usually when people are eligible for Medicare, I always say, you're entitled to Medicare. You paid into the system all these years. Let's at least take 10 minutes and compare it. And that way, and can then make a good decision. Maybe it is staying on the employer plan, but at least we reviewed it and we know. Or maybe it's not. And oftentimes that's the case. So you don't have to wait till you're retiring. If you're already Medicare eligible, it's a great idea to review that. So you are getting all the benefits you're entitled to.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there too. And I know that offline, you and I have talked through this before too. I think it's interesting how some folks that are sharing Medicare are tied to a specific company. And I mean that as they can only utilize the Medicare program that's with one entity, right? Whereas, I think looking at somebody who's a broker who can kind of look at everything across the board and really do what's in that person's best interest, I think is a great way to look at things.
Well, I mean, Jennifer, you bring up a really good point, and that's another, you asked about a little nugget to share, right? And that is, it's really to your benefit to make sure I say, look for three things in who you're using to help you navigate Medicare. Are they a licensed agent that is licensed with more than one company, right? Because as you were mentioning, a lot of times somebody might be a captive agent. So all they can sell for is company X, right? The company they work for. And there are so many moving pieces that you want to be able to look at, right? So again, have they been doing it? So that's number one. Are they licensed with multiple companies and with multiple products? Some maybe only represent Advantage plans, while others only represent a Medigap policy. You want to be talking to an agent that represents both, so they can truly share what the difference is, and you can then gravitate towards what meets your need the most. So number one, do they have that? Number two, do they have experience? How long have they been doing it? Medicare, again, is a lot of moving pieces. You want to have somebody with a little bit of experience under their belt. And then third, do you trust them? Is it somebody that you're comfortable with? Are they going to be around for a while? I always say, if you have that person in your life, use them. That's fantastic. If you don't, come to us. We're a great resource, and that's exactly what we provide.
Yeah. And I think the educational side is just with anything in finance, right? I feel like the education, financial literacy, regardless of who you go, who you work with, whatever that is, just make sure that you are learning what things look like and taking responsibility for that, because that truly affects your financial snapshot, your holistic financial snapshot for sure.
Well, let's face it, as we age, healthcare related expenses are oftentimes one of the biggest reasons for whether it's bankruptcy or financial stress. And, you have to be in the driver's seat of your own healthcare decisions. And so you really have to take ownership of finding a resource where you can become educated and you yourself can understand at least the differences. Now, again, it's not like, that's why you would use an agent, right? That's what we do. We have to certify every year with every carrier. We have to pass specific tests. There's just a lot of moving pieces. And that's kind of where we help you navigate the little nuances that you might not be aware of, right? To help keep you out of potential penalties or to help keep you on the best financial path available in terms of that healthcare plan. That's what we're here to do. But it's also your job to take ownership of getting as much information as you can. And we hope to provide that all in one place.
Yeah, because it is a foreign language for sure. A foreign language with moving parts that keep changing every single year. So benefits amounts change, dollar amounts change, programs change. So I think it's really good to have that conversation for sure.
You're absolutely right. And I always say a huge downfall is I'll talk with people, and one of the first things they'll mention is, Jodie, I was having lunch with my friends and they told me about their plans and this is how it works. And they have to realize some plans are specific to the area they live in. And so you can get a quote misinformation, if you will, as a byproduct of just talking with people, right? So you want to make sure you're getting everything cleared up that's pertinent to where you live and what's available to you.
Great point on that, because I chuckle because I've heard this before in different situations where somebody who I'm potentially working with will say, oh, well, my brother, who's a plumber, said I should be doing blah, blah. Well, I'm sure your brother is a rock star plumber and fantastic. I, as a financial advisor who's licensed, I'm not giving plumbing advice because I should not be doing that, right? And vice versa, right? You want somebody who's an expert in that field to be able to help and support you.
That's exactly right. So as well-intentioned as it is talking with family and friends, especially healthcare, it always comes up, right? Is that you can walk away from that coffee, table or the lunch having the wrong information for what's pertinent to you. So you have to be careful that way.
Yeah, for sure. So one other thing that we like to talk about on this podcast is money memories. So what is a money memory, Jodie, that you have either when you were younger, teenager, that you had growing up that really helped mold your relationship to money as an adult?
That's a really great question. And I have a few, but one I will share actually was in high school. I can remember sitting in a business class, which again, I loved business. And this particular teacher sharing about having a vision for where you saw your life, right? That the first step in creating financial freedom was being able to visualize yourself where you wanted to be, and that having a good relationship with money makes all the difference. If we don't feel like we deserve money, it won't come. And so that really stood out to me. And I always come back to this one particular teacher in high school. I can contribute a lot of where I have things that I have achieved from just those basic lessons. And that was one of them, right? You got to be able to visualize it, see it, and have a good relationship with money in order to get there.
That's solid advice, especially, to get that so young. I feel like now the whole money mindset conversation, very popular, right? You see it on YouTube and TikTok and everywhere else, like money mindset. But to have that shared to you at a young age, that's fantastic.
Right? Yeah. Love that teacher. I won't say his name, but I remember him. He was a very influential person in my life for a lot of reasons.
One, how cool, because that's something that you could share with others, right? As you're lifting others around you, because the money memory is that common tie that I feel like I hear from, clients or people that want to work with us or whatnot. There's always a money memory there of how they relate to money as an adult. And something that happened in their childhood. And sometimes they don't realize it until we start, having the conversation saying, what was your money memory? Why are you the way you are with money? No right or wrong. It's just everybody has that unique story.
Well, and it's a constant thing you have to always review with your own self through all the phases of life, right? You learn it once, but it doesn't mean that it sticks with you. You have to constantly be thinking about that, right? Your relationship with money. Am I Am I able to envision where I want to be? Because as we move through life, sometimes that changes and that's okay. But our relationship with money still needs to be positive, right? We need to be able to deserve it. And we do deserve it, but in our mind, we need to be able to have that story in our head, right?
Totally. And I think changing the narrative sometimes can make sense for folks, depending on if they came from a place of scarcity or what their upbringing looked like too. Changing the narrative to depending on what season you're in your life. Because every season changes too, whether you're, in your good earning years and saving money and saving for retirement or whatever that looks like, to the point of retiring and then truly enjoying retiring. That's been an interesting switch for a lot of folks psychologically because they're used to saving and doing all the things behind the scenes and kind of squirreling away money for that retirement time. And then when retirement comes, Medicare becomes a part of the conversation. And then how am I taking money from accounts now? Well, that's a big psychological switch when you've been putting money in and now you're taking money out. So you're seeing different things happening. So I think changing the narrative as you move forward with, what your money story is in that moment is so important.
Well, it's huge. And Jennifer, I'm glad that you shared that because also, even as we move into retirement, right, we still have a relationship with money. And there are still, it doesn't matter, in my opinion, what your age is, there's always opportunities to continue to grow and learn new things. And again, I know a lot of people in retirement because, that's who I talk with all day long. And they're out doing some pretty incredible things. Starting businesses, doing things, right? So retirement doesn't look and feel the same way for everybody, right? So we can absolutely navigate and create whatever path we want, regardless of what age we are. We never stop.
Love that. That should be on a t-shirt. I say that, right? That is a good one.
Yeah.
So another thing we chat through is financial infidelities, which can mean different things to different people, whether that's an infidelity that you experienced with a spouse or a partner or a business partner through work, whatever that is. What is a financial infidelity that you've either experienced or that you're open to sharing that you've witnessed?
Absolutely. Well, my word, I can think of a few, right? Probably we all throughout as time goes on have things we wish we would have done differently. But the thing that stands out to me, you actually touched on it, Jennifer, just a minute ago, was having a scarcity mindset. So having the background that I do in business and marketing and, teaching, sometimes I have to also change the story in my head. And there were times throughout my life, and sometimes it spanned years, where due to life circumstances, you're just trying to get by. I think for a lot of women who maybe are stay at home and their kids or whatever it might be, right? Maybe the income isn't what we need at that time. And it's really easy to fall into a scarcity mindset and rather than abundance. And the problem with that is what we focus on expands. If all that we're focusing on is our lack of, right, we're never in the creative mode to be able to grow money. And that's a hard lesson. And I've been in that stage multiple times where even having my background and knowing what I know, it's easy to fall prey to that, where we're just really trying to shave costs. And there's nothing wrong with shaving costs, but, we're so, tied to the money coming in. It's going to be right in savings or it's not going to, we're just too worried that, that it doesn't grow. Right. And that's not a good mindset to be in. And so I would say for me, that's an area that, I've struggled with through the years. And it always gets better when you shift what's in your mind, the story you're telling yourself, from scarcity to abundance. And how do I get into that abundance mentality of the flow of money? It's there. You just have to be in the right mindset for it.
So your financial infidelity is more as not being impeccable to yourself with your own truth.
Yes. Right. It's I know these things and I still fall prey. Right. I still fall victim, if you will, to certain periods of time where I'm not doing what I should be doing. And it's usually my mindset.
Interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
And as we start to wrap the conversation, I always like to ask, what are tips and or tricks that you use to utilize money differently in your own household?
Well, this is a good one. And I have a saying, and it's kind of a quote that I use for a lot of what I do in life. It's keep it simple. It's actually keep it simple, stupid, but it's keep it simple. KISS. And, oftentimes I think myself, maybe other women as well, or anybody in general, you feel like you need to be an expert in order to grow money. Like, gosh, I enjoy sales and marketing, but throughout the years, I haven't necessarily had a financial brain, right? Numbers and things like that. And so it's easy, again, to tell a story to yourself about, only other people that are financially literate, very smart, are going to grow their money. And that's not true. That's not true at all. So that's number one, is keep it simple, right? Use your own common sense. What I mean by that is gravitate towards financial strategies that are enjoyable to you, because there are so many things out there, right? Whether it's, do you enjoy real estate? Do you enjoy the stock market? Do you enjoy commodities? Maybe none of that floats your boat. Maybe you're somebody who, you're a musician and you're very talented and have a lot of expertise on a particular musical instrument. Buy low, sell high. It can be so simple. You just have to start, right? And if you start in an area that you have an interest in, that's when you dive in and it becomes exciting. So that's number one. Number two is, it's not all about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep, right? So in that, keep it simple. The more we can try to stay out of debt, of course, the better, right? But we don't have to knock it out of the ballpark every time. As long as, if we're living within our means and we can pay ourselves first, it's what you keep and then what you do with that money that you keep, right? If you can use that money to make money, right? Have it be a tool for you rather than, hiding it away. Let that money work for you. And then finally, the third is, again, you have to be honest with yourself, right? You have to be honest with what your shortcomings are with money, what the stories are in your head, why they're there, and be willing to change that. And that takes some dedication. It's not easy to do, but you really have to be honest with yourself if you want to move forward. And it can be done. It can so be done at any age. You can change your trajectory of where you're headed financially.
Yeah, that's good. And I think it's a good reminder too that everybody's a work in progress, right?
Yes.
You're never going to knock it out of the park with everything all the time. But being a work in progress just makes you want to continue to learn and grow.
Oh, absolutely. And again, take ownership, whether it's Medicare or your finances. Nobody's going to do it for you. You need to take ownership of being aware of where you're at. And more importantly, kind of back to that money memory, have a vision of where you want to be. You're right. Whether you're 18 or whether you're 65, or have a vision of where you want to be and then be motivated to get there, and you'll get there.
Yeah, love that. Well, thank you so much for spending some time.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. This is a wonderful podcast. Thanks for all that you do, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you. And thank those of you listening. Hopefully you'll join us in the next Platinum Talks Wealth podcast.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, Platinum Talks Wealth, please subscribe and share. For more information about Jennifer Rogers Markwell or Platinum Wealth Management, please visit www.platinumwealth.net. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member of FINRA and SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. The guest speakers and their companies are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Platinum Wealth Management.